Assisted suicide. Should this be legal? By Maria Jones. You may wonder what assisted suicide is. It's basically the suicide of a patient suffering from an incurable disease. They take lethal drugs provided by the doctor, which makes it assisted. The central idea is that assisted suicide should be legal for those who are terminally ill. And those who don't agree with assisted suicide due to religion and beliefs and things like that, they should be allowed to bow out and let another healthcare provider perform the procedure. A mental capacity test is most often given to the patients who request suicide. This is to ensure that the patients are having assisted suicide for the purpose of their illness and not for any mental health issues. Also, healthcare providers are required to make it clear to the patient what they're asking for. They have to ask them several times, including right before they are given the drugs, to make sure assisted suicide is really what they want. Assisted suicide should be legal because you are essentially giving the patient the right to control their life. Libertarians believe that doctors should be able to perform assisted suicide on people who have only biological life. Biological life is basically when the illness has already destroyed the patient's consciousness, and the healthcare provider would just be ending the basic body functions that don't have any human purpose. I have witnessed how terminal diseases such as cancer, dementia, Parkinson's disease, and more can have a huge toll on your patients as well as their loved ones. Assisted suicide should be legal to allow the patients who are terminally ill to cease their pain, take financial stress off their loved ones, and exercise their right of life. Terminally ill patients are constantly in pain, and emotionally and physically. Living with an illness for the rest of your life can really take the joys out of life, especially if you have severe symptoms. Living in a hospital can take away the qualities of life that some patients live for. This can include going to the beach, taking walks, taking trips, family functions, and things like that. This can pose the question of why live in pain, especially if you must stay in the hospital, which doesn't have a lively aura. The burden of a terminal illness lies mostly on the patient, but it can lie on the ones who love them the most as well. Families tend to get stressed, and sometimes it can cause them to have medical complications themselves. Sleep deprivation is also something that loved ones face. They go from jobs to the hospital if they have kids, and this leaves them little to no time to sleep. Family friends tend to become consumed in the patient, neglect their jobs, happiness, and others in their life. If they have kids or a spouse, they don't get to see them as often, and this can impact them as well. While the patients are in the hospital or hospice or whatever facility that they're in, the loved ones must continue to pay expensive hospital bills when the patient may not even want to live. Hospital and patient charges can exceed $6,200 per day, and the cost to maintain someone in the ICU can reach up to $10,000 per day. Medicaid, Medicare, and other insurance companies can help pay for this, but it's not 100%. They also have other expenses like eating at the hospital cafeteria, gas from the extra trips to the hospital, and more. This can create a financial burden on the families, and it can affect the patient because they don't want to see their family members suffer. Now, patients do have the right to deny medical assistance, so they should have the right to have assisted suicide if they feel as if there's nothing more to live for. They say that a law against doctor-assisted suicide would violate the rights of those who, under certain circumstances, might want such a choice to be available. If the patient's mental health is positive, they should have the right to choose. They know their body more than you. The opponents believe that physician-assisted suicide is fundamentally incompatible with the physician's role as a healer, will be difficult to or impossible to control, and will pose serious societal risk. While yes, it may be difficult for everyone involved, the happiness and mental health of the patient and their families should be more important. By doctors participating in assisted suicide, they are giving justice to the patients and healing them from the inside out. Sometimes a patient will always be in pain and miserable until the physician puts their feelings away and does what's best for the patient. Some may say that those who want assisted suicide are giving up on life. They believe that there may be a medical breakthrough or there will be a cure for the disease in the future. While yes, medical breakthroughs and cures do happen, they take time and trial and error to be efficient. Once a patient is having assisted suicide, they have already lived with the disease for so long, their lives are basically over. Those who have just been diagnosed still have the fight and will in their spirit. Having assisted suicide is not giving up on life. It is already knowing when your soul, which is what is most important, is dead. In summary, assisted suicide should be legal to allow patients who are terminally ill the right to choose. Doctors and nurses are always telling these patients what their next procedure or move or thing will be like. They should have the right to have a say in their life. As of right now, families must travel to have the procedure, which creates even more expenses. The patients know when they can't take the pain of their illnesses or just don't want to leave the burden on their family. They should have the choice of when they don't want to live in their circumstances any longer. Thank you.